Welcome back to your channel. In this episode, I'm going to talk about the quantum physics and spirituality and also the psychology and what they have in common. So I guess those who have not studied quantum physics doesn't know much about it, so I will first explain the rough overview of quantum physics, although I'm not a science person and I can just explain to the extent that I understood the quantum physics. So first of all, before I start, the quantum physics and the psychology and the spiritual world, they all talk about something that you cannot see, something that's not visible. So I guess there might be some similarities between those three fields. So I will start from the quantum physics. So the quantum physics studies the very small world, the micro world which you cannot see. So when you see the small world, you know that there are molecules. For instance, the water consists of H2O. H2O is the molecule. The molecule is made of atom. For instance, for the water H2O, there are two H's and one O, and the H and the O, they are respectively atom. But this atom is still not the smallest unit of the material. The atom is made of nucleus and electron, and nucleus is like the core staying in the center, and the electron is circulating around the nucleus. That's what atom looks like. And I didn't know that the nucleus is actually super small. On the textbook, nucleus is described as a big ball, but I actually learned that it's quite small. If the nucleus is as big as let's say a pea or a chickpea or or something like a small ball, the electron is as big as the baseball stadium. So the 99.9% of each atom is just empty. So you can see how much emptiness there is in this atom. Anyways, the atom is made of nucleus and electron, but this nucleus is still not the smallest material in the world. The nucleus is made of neutron and proton. And you would think this is the smallest one? No. Neutron and proton is made of elementary particles, and so far there are 17 elementary particles found by scientists such as quark or lepton. Quark has 6 kinds of quarks, and lepton also has 6 kinds such as neutrino, tau, electron, and muon. And also there are elementary particles called gluon, boson, proton, or Higgs boson. Anyways, these are the smallest particle that consists of every material in this world. So the quantum physics studies about these elementary particles, how they works. And there's this famous experiment called double-slit experiment, which was first done in 1961. In the experiment, they were trying to find if these elementary particles are waves or are particle, like each particle. For instance, imagine the light. Light is made of photon. Photon is also one kind of elementary particles. And the light travels like waves, but it could also be like particles. So this double-slit experiment tried to find out if those particles are waves or just particles. So how they did it was that they tried to shoot this electron beam gun, which will emit the electron beams onto the screen, but they will put a slate with double slit in between. So the electron can only go through those two slits before they reach the screen. And if the particles are waves, then they thought the screen will have many interference patterns, meaning there will be multiple stripes shown on the screen. And if the electron is just one kind of particles, they just use the electron in this experiment. If the electron is a particle, then it can only go through the double slit one by one, meaning there will be only two patterns on the screen. There will be only two strips on the screen. And the result of the experiment was that they found this interference pattern, meaning there were multiple, like 5, 6 stripes on the screen. So they first thought that the particles are actually waves. So it's called the wave nature of electron, or wave nature of particles. But then they wanted to observe how each electron acts like waves. So they put these detectors by the double slit slate. But the moment they put the detector, each detected electrons just start to pass through only one slit, not through both slits. And the moment they put the detectors, the electron starts to behave like a particle, not like waves anymore. And the electrons do not form the interference pattern anymore when they put the detector and try to observe it. So this is called the wave-particle duality in the quantum physics, meaning that these elementary particles have both wave nature as well as particle nature. It could be both, but the moment you try to observe them, the moment you observed them, the particles will start to behave, it will stop behaving like waves. So this is what they found from this double slit experiment. What I found interesting from this experiment is that when you are not observing, the particles are behaving like waves. So meaning there are multiple probabilities in the state of those particles. But the moment you start to observe the particles, you can only see one state. So the other state will just collapse. So this is called wave function collapse. So when you are not observing it, they have multiple states, just like waves. But the moment you start to observe, wave function collapse occurs, and the wave will be reduced to a single state. In other words, the moment you start to observe the particles, they will stop being waves and will become materials. This could be also explained by Schrodinger's cat's analogy. This is not a real experiment, but it's just an analogy where you have a cat and you put the cat in a box, and in the box you will put a device which will emit toxic gas with 50%. So in the 50% of the time, the toxic gas will be emitted. And when you don't open this box, the cat in the box is both alive and dead. So this is what you call the wave state. So there are multiple possibilities, but the moment you open the box and try to observe the cat is either alive or dead. This is the same as the putting detector in the double-slit experiment. The moment you try to observe it, either of the states just disappears, and you can only see one of either states. So, in other words, the quantum physics argues that particles exist either as a material or as a wave. And what I have found out from this argument of quantum physics is that in the world of spirituality, they are also talking about similar thing, which is law of attraction. The law of attraction says that if you are conscious, you intend, then anything you intended will be realized, whether it's positive or negative things. And in the spiritual world, this is thought as a universal law. And this is something similar to what quantum physics just talked about in the double-slit experiment. In the quantum physics, it says when you try to observe it, it materializes. In the spiritual world, it says when you are conscious about something, when you intend something, it will be materialized. And also, even in the psychology or neuroscience, there's this effect called color bath effect, which is something that it says if you are conscious of a particular thing, particular color, for instance, you will keep finding that thing in your life. For instance, in your mind, you will think of red color, and you will think of red color many, many times, like red, 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 red. And then after a while, you'll keep seeing red stuff. And that's because the brain will just unconsciously search for something that you have be aware of, that you have be very conscious of. And for those who think this law of attraction is quite sketchy, because if I think, oh, I want to be a billionaire, or I want to marry to someone in like 2 months, but it doesn't realize, so law of attraction doesn't work. But I guess you can also explain this in a psychology, from a psychology perspective, because our consciousness is made of 95% subconsciousness, and only 5% is conscious. And so this 95% of subconscious mind affects laws of your mental state, and also your what you realize in your life. So for instance, you in conscious mind you think, oh, I want to be a billionaire, but actually in subconscious mind you have this mindset that those rich people are bad people, or being rich is a bad thing, and you don't even realize you have this subconscious mind. But as long as you have this subconscious mind, you would actually materialize that thought. So you will attract the poorness, the poverty. Also, for instance, you think, oh, I want to get married, but in the subconscious mind you might be thinking, I don't deserve to be loved, I'm a worthless person. And what happened is that this subconscious mind will attract the result. Then the realization is that you don't get married. So in my opinion, in our world, not in the quantum physics world or spiritual world, or maybe they're all interconnected, but I mean in the realistic world that we are living in, for you to realize something, you have to actually work on your conscious mind pretty much. Only the 5% of the conscious mind, you have to take the full advantage of it. So how you do it is, first you actually be conscious of it. You have strong intent about something, and then next step is that you actually say it out loud, you vocalize it, and the third step is that you take action about it. That's how you make things realized. For instance, in the beginning of this year, I thought I wanna have an apartment for investment, but in the beginning I was only thinking in my mind, I didn't take any actions. But one day we went out for snowboarding with friends, and my husband told our friends that we are thinking of buying an apartment for investment. And at that time, it's kind of is already materialized halfway, because we say it out loud as words. Words are also, you can also think words as kind of materialization, but it is not realized yet at the stage. After that, once you say that to someone out loud, I felt like, oh, I actually have to take actions to realize it. And then we start to take action. We start to reach out the real estate companies. And actually, by the end of February, we actually made contract of this apartment for investment. So I guess this is exactly the steps we have to go through to realize something in our real world. You first have to be conscious of something. You have to have intent, clear intent of something, and also that shouldn't be bothered by your subconscious mind. It shouldn't be mentally blocked by your subconscious mind. And then you say it out loud that, oh, I want to do something. And then in the end, finally, you would take action. I guess in this three-dimensional world, if you don't take action, it's kind of hard to materialize stuff. Maybe those very spiritual people can attract stuff without doing anything, but I guess for normal people, we always have to take action to realize something. So, as conclusion, in this episode, I found the common things among the quantum physics, spirituality, and the psychology. They all talk about when you are conscious of something, when you intend something strongly, then it will be materialized, it will be realized. So I found this very interesting, and I found many other stuff that's in common between spiritual world and quantum physics, which I'll talk about in my next episode. Alright, thanks for listening. Bye bye.